Boom, and we are live, Valiant Warriors. Welcome back to another episode of Valiant Watch. We have a very, very, very special guest with us today, the one, the only, Gregg Katzman.
How's it going, guys? Thank you for having me.
And thank you for being with us today. So this is going to be a good one. We have a bunch of stuff we want to ask you. So I guess let's just get right into it. So first, would you mind just giving like a little background on yourself, just letting people know like how you got involved with Valiant and, you know, like what drew you to Valiant, that sort of thing?
Yeah, sure. I graduated college in 2007, and with my experience, I went into the news industry as a writer and producer. But after about like 3 or 4 years in the industry and working at 2 different stations, I determined that really wasn't the future that I wanted. Nothing against that industry in general. It's just, you know, I could have had a good career there, but I wasn't passionate about it. It wasn't for me. So I applied the skills that I learned there, and I moved them into the press side of the comics industry and the entertainment industry, because that's the stuff that I'm really passionate about. You know, as a kid, I was obsessed with X-Men, the animated series, and Ninja Turtles, and Ghostbusters, and Spider-Man, and Batman. So I grew up loving all this stuff, and it never really left me. Let's see. So I left that industry and I started writing for various outlets. I wrote for Screen Rant, for CBR, for IGN, for Comic Vine. 2 years actually with Comic Vine. That was so much fun. Nice. But I was with Comic Vine when Valiant had its Summer of Valiant in 2012, when the company came back. And to be totally honest with you, prior to that, I wasn't a Valiant guy. I didn't even know Valiant was a thing. When I was a kid, my only experience with Valiant was the Exo Manowar, well, Iron Man Exo Manowar heavy metal game on Game Gear. I also played Turok. I had no idea at the time he was a Valiant character. So yeah, when this new universe came out, I was working for Comic Vine. You know, every day we were coming up with different articles, different ways to talk about the things that we love. And obviously I was doing a lot of Marvel and DC coverage. But there was this brand new superhero universe that I missed out on back in the 90s. Never really checked it out. So I figured, why not give each new #1 a shot when it relaunched in 2012, and just giving it on a shot. If you like it, great. If not, whatever. At least you went into it with an open mind. And I read Exo Manowar #1 the day it came out. I think I actually got it at A&S Comics, which is a shop near me. I picked it up over there. I read it, and yeah, I was a big fan. It had me hooked, that first issue. And then I read, I think it was Harbinger that came next, or Bloodshot. I usually confuse the initial launch order, but it was it was Exo, which I fell in love with, and then Harbinger, which I really enjoyed. That was totally different from anything else that I was reading. And then Bloodshot was just doing action so well. And then Archer and Armstrong, which, to be totally honest with you, was my least favorite of the 4. I know people will hold that against me. But when you're saying the least favorite of your relaunch books, that's still a really high bar. Least favorite is still enjoying it a lot. And I recently actually did a reread of the earlier material, and it holds up very well. I had a blast with it. And they actually just won Valiant Heroes, I guess, of the week, Archer and Armstrong. Yeah. So... yeah, so I gave all the #1s a shot. I was hooked. I stuck with it, and I was just a big, kind of like an ambassador for Valiant at Comic Vine. I did a bunch of interviews with the staff at the time and the creators. I wrote a bunch of editorials, like Valiant is the publisher to watch. I did my best to always try to put Valiant on other people's radar by incorporating it in Marvel or DC things. Like we had Best Battles and New Comics. I would highlight a really cool fight from Bloodshot or from Exo Manowar in there. Or in the Battle of the Week, I had, I think it was Exo Manowar versus Colossus and Cyclops versus Ninjak. And it was just a really fun way to try to get people to take a look at these characters and learn about them, while also, you know, being led in there by properties that they already know and love. So that was a cool way to try to introduce people to Valiant. And I just had a blast writing about Valiant for 2 years. My career since then, I've written for a bunch of places as press. I briefly worked at New York Comic Con. I worked at Midtown Comics for 2 years. I did their events and marketing. That was a great time. But yeah, when Matthew Klein reached out to me about an opportunity at Valiant in marketing, how could I not hear him out? You know, I mean, I've been promoting Valiant essentially for free for years. So obviously the opportunity to step on this side of the industry and focus solely on Valiant and ways that I can help continue to give them the perspective of, you know, a fan who just absolutely loves Valiant. It's something I don't take for granted at all. Every single day, something I take very seriously, that I'm there, that I'm bringing the perspective of, you know, fans who love this from 2012 to current. So we're always having great conversations about stuff like that. I'm always, and because it's a small company, we all talk regularly and we all have, you know, very civil debates about what we like or maybe what we think could be handled differently. But it's a great working environment, and it is just a totally surreal opportunity for me to be a part of it and to continue to give my feedback and support and find new ways to try to help, you know, Marvel and DC fans or Image fans finally pick up a Valiant comic, and then hopefully from there feel motivated to see what else the universe has to offer. And now here I am with you guys.
Wow.
All right, excellent.
That's kind of incredible, because honestly, that's somewhat what we're trying to do here at Valiant Watch. I mean, the discussion started with Comic Watch. There wasn't a lot of focus being put on Valiant, and we looked at, you know, how can we do that and keep people engaged.
Thank you, by the way.
Thank you. I mean, we're kind of on that side where we're just doing it for free because we're such fans, and like not enough fans are exposed to it. And
exactly,
it's interesting that you come from that background in press, because that's kind of what I have seen spur a lot of fans onto Valiant, is getting introduced through these other properties, and then you find out, wow, Valiant's doing something that might be way better than what I've been reading. And that's actually really cool. Does that play a role into how you approached your position at Valiant? And did that kind of inform, you know, your responsibilities or how you carry them out?
Yeah, absolutely. I think I've been working at Valiant for over a year now. I started as a marketing coordinator. Thankfully, I did a remotely decent job. Now I'm a marketing manager there. I work with Emily Hecht, who's the digital marketing manager. You guys spoke to her a few weeks ago. I don't know. Time is kind of weird nowadays, but it was relatively recently. As you guys know, she's amazing. She does such a great job with all of her social media. And then I work for Matthew Klein. He's the head of the marketing department. He was part of Valiant back when I was with Midtown Comics, actually. So he has been around with Valiant for quite some time. So it's always great just chatting as a team about everything that's going on. And the experience that I bring to the company is obviously my expertise comes with press, an understanding of, you know, what can and can't work sometimes, managing expectations for our goals for press. And then also, of course, just because I've been fortunate enough to have the opportunity to write for so many places, I've obviously made, I would consider them friends, a lot of friends in the industry. And through that, I'm able to talk to them about, you know, what is appealing to them for Valiant and what do they think they can do with that to help introduce it to their readers. Because obviously you have to understand where we stand in the industry and our reach. So while we are doing a lot of, you know, interviews and putting out features and lining up, making sure that whenever we announce a book, it gets a really big push and a lot of eyes are on it. Also trying to find creative ways to encourage people to continue talking about Valiant when they recognize something that is about just Valiant may not be bringing in as much traffic as, say, something about Marvel or DC. So finding new and creative ways to work with people to make sure that they feel encouraged to talk about Valiant and excited about what's going on at Valiant. And it's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, excellent. Yeah. Cool. So speaking of, as far as like reaching out and sharing things, what do you think at least recently has been like your most favorite, what's been like your favorite new thing? Like the Hero of the Week thing I think is excellent.
Thank you.
So like what have you guys been working on is there maybe something coming up that you can maybe hint about, or is there something going on now that you maybe want to give us a little bit of backstory on or something like that?
So I could hint all day. I can't reveal anything, unfortunately. So the origin of, thank you, by the way, for enjoying the Hero of the Week and participating in it. The origin story there is obviously with everything that's going on right now with the pandemic. It's important to value people over profit. It just is. You need to care about people. And you need to find ways to help people get through this because everyone's being impacted differently, but at the end of the day, it's still taking a toll on everyone. So we were thinking about ways that we could try to help people get through this. And I firmly believe that escapism and entertainment is important now more than ever because you can't just, it's crucial to stay updated on ways that you can continue to keep safe and in turn keep others and your loved ones safe as well, but you can't be totally absorbed by that. It's just going to take a toll. So you need healthy ways to essentially escape. I know we call Valiant the world outside your window, but in this case you need some time away from the world outside your window, time to just focus on you and something that you love. And it's definitely been a challenge because, the office is closed. That's where we have all of our trade paperbacks, all the cool things I would love to, provide for giveaways. But one thing we can do is provide free PDFs. So we've been doing that every single day. And one way that we thought would be fun to keep people engaged was, so I'm going to be totally honest here, back at Comic Vine, an ongoing segment that I came up with was called the Character of the Week. And what I did there was I created a poll. I talked with Tony and Matt, who are two incredible guys, about who we would want to put on the poll. And then every week we highlight them like that person is in the battle of the week. And then we do an article of their best covers, an article of their best battles, stuff like that. And it was a really fun way to engage with the forum there because I was a big part of the forum. I was on the forum for years before I became staff there. So that was a lot of fun. But I wanted to apply something like that to Valiant because with no new comics arriving, Valiant fans, I wanted to make sure we're providing stuff for them to encourage them to maybe revisit some of their favorite arcs or talk about what they love about a character or make recommendations, reading recommendations or even issue recommendations for certain characters. And the best way to do that would be if we highlight a character every week, and that gives fans the opportunity to share why they like or maybe even dislike if they feel that way about the character. And then that hopefully in turn encourages other people, say Marvel and DC fans who are very active on social right now, but not reading new comics, to see that this book is being recommended or this character is being recommended. Maybe I'll give it a shot, especially since there's a free PDF of it. And I'm not sure, how well it's been working, to be completely honest with you. I'm not sure how many new Valiant fans have been created. But at the end of the day, what matters to me is that Valiant fans seem to be having a good time with it, and it's helping them get through this terrible time, and that's really important now. And we just need to keep finding ways to give people something to look forward to and give people some desperately needed escapism. I mean, I try to do daily share a picture of the comic I'm reading every night and saying it's my, tonight's escapism. And sometimes it's Valiant, sometimes it's not. I'm just trying to promote the comics that I love and the comics that I'm feeling encouraged to reread. And right now I'm doing a read through of the IDW Ninja Turtles series, which I'm very passionate about. I love that run. But yeah, as for stuff on the way, I can't reveal anything yet, but what I can say is that very important discussions are happening every day about the publishing plan, not just for 2020, but also what all of 2021 looks like and how it can lead into 2022.
Okay.
All the fan favorites are being discussed. That's all I can say. I would love to say more, man. I really would. But these are fun conversations, and I'm truly honored to have a part of them and have a voice in them. And we'll just have to wait and see how it goes. But in the coming months, there should be some fun announcements. I mean, before this all happened, there was Valiant 2020, the Year of the Hero, and we did drop teasers which appeared to promote Harbinger and Ninjak. And as you know, Shadow Man's on the way. By the way, have I given you guys a working copy of Shadow Man yet?
No, not yet.
Okay, after this recording, I'm going to email you a working copy of Shadow Man and a working copy of Savage.
Oh,
you're the man.
All that I ask is no spoilers.
Oh, that's
no
gonna.
That's all I ask.
That's doable. Very doable.
I'll throw in E012 in there as well.
Oh my gosh.
All right.
So, yeah.
Okay, excellent.
What was my train of thought again?
Yeah. But yeah, there's so what I can say, I guess, for Ninjak and Ninjak and Harbinger is the editors and the creative team are bringing a very fresh energy and atmosphere to those books. It is not the kind of Ninjak that you've seen before, but it's staying true to the character. It is not the kind of Harbinger you've seen before, but it's all about, don't want to say too much.
All right.
Yeah, I got to cut myself off there before I spoil anything.
Okay, that's understandable. All right, let's step back from the danger zone a little bit.
I would like to keep my job.
Yeah. Okay. So how about the hero of the week? All right, which one's been your favorite so far?
Oh man, it hasn't happened yet because Ninjak hasn't won yet.
Right.
Oh.
No, I mean, probably EXO, just because I think EXO has had some great comic runs. I mean, the Venditti run is the one that got me into Valiant, and then I reread that run a few months ago, and it is just so good. It's just amazing sci-fi material from arc to arc, and the Kin stuff is really strong too. It's taken it in a different direction after what Venditti did, and I think that's important. You don't just want to repeat what came before, otherwise it could feel like, yeah, it's like that, but maybe not as good. And you always want to try to do something new, but also something that's staying true to the characters. That's always important.
Yeah, I can definitely dig that.
What about you guys though?
Well,
like, honestly, Ninjak probably had my vote in the first one. I'm still shocked that Ninjak didn't take the first Valiant.
Yeah, he'll always have my vote. He's my favorite Valiant character.
I thought for sure that he would get the karaoke challenge one.
In continuity, he's karaoke, and he won over Cannon. But
yeah,
I mean,
I like
very charismatic and enthusiastic. She would
exactly.
Give a great
if you've been watching our page, I'm actually doing. I had a poll up not too long ago, just saying like what book I should just go all the way through again, and Ninjak won.
Yep.
And so like the timing was perfect because I had like just read the issue where he did the karaoke and dropped a review, and then that came up. I was like, it's fate, and he has to win. So I don't know.
Yeah, that Kent run, dude,
we'll keep
is so good.
Yeah.
It's
how far along are you in that?
I actually just finished Fist and Steel, and I'm about 2 issues into the 7 Blades of Master Dark.
Nice. So I think since you're reading that, one character that I continue to push at Valiant HQ, and it'll never happen, and I understand that, I want Fitzy to become his own character. I love Fitzy, man. I think he's a great character with a ton of potential. but there are other characters who need books first.
Yeah, no, I can dig that, man.
Maybe I'm still asking for that one.
Yeah,
that would be great. I loved just the first meeting of that too, where Fitz goes into like his whole backstory and this, that, and the other, and then they cut to the like present day, and him and Ninjak are just sitting there all beat up, and he's like, well, why didn't you just lead with that? We wouldn't have to beat the hell out of each other. Like, that's one of my favorite pages of Ninjak of all time. And it's so simple, but it's so great.
And that also says a lot about Ninjak, because the fight was basically a stalemate. And the only reason Ninjak won is because, I'm not going to say he cheated, but he's willing to do what it takes to win. He pulled a dirty move, and I think it was poison, right? He scratched him.
Yeah, he poisoned him while he was.
Yeah.
And he's like, well, that was a good story, but now you're going to go to sleep. So,
are you going to reread Ninja K after you're done with the Ken run? Because that first volume of Ninja K, dude, that is so good.
Yeah, well, I haven't made my mind up yet, because originally I was just going to go through the that first run that Kent did, and then maybe do another poll. But I think I might just leave that up to the fans. The guys watching our page, throw up another poll, and it's like, all right, do we get into Ninja K? Do you want to see some reviews on maybe a different character, or maybe I'll just have to multitask and do the next volume of Ninja K, and then just throw in some random ones in there as we go along.
We had also talked about maybe switching things up for a bit of a wackier show, and maybe doing something like Valiant High. I haven't dug into it yet. I wanted to see if kind of you'd speak more towards that side of Valiant, because everybody talks a lot about Bloodshot and Ninjak, but there's one side of Valiant that I think that maybe doesn't get enough attention.
Yeah, no, that's fair. There's Valiant High, which, as you know, is a separate continuity. There's we also have Quantum and Woody, Archer and Armstrong. All those books give a very different vibe and energy than say EXO or Ninjak or Bloodshot or Harbinger or Imperium or Life and Death of Toyo Harada or Bloodshot Reborn. Definitely a very different vibe there. And that's not a critique of it. Bloodshot Reborn is one of my favorites. Actually, when I was doing my interview with Mel, I think it was my second interview at the time, he asked me about my favorite, and I picked Bloodshot Reborn. So,
yeah, Rush wanted to come say hi.
Sorry, I actually hear an echo. I don't know if it's me.
Yeah, I think it stopped.
Sorry about that.
No, I think you'll find that Ken and I both are just really big fans of Valiant as a company. It's something that we've talked about a lot on our show. Kind of the corporate culture that keeps drawing us back. They're deeply invested in fans. That they're always excited about the material, the stories that are being told. And I think you're kind of a big proponent of this. I've followed you on social media for a while now, and your activity with the fandom is something that I respect so much, because you just don't see it enough in the industry.
Thank you.
And yeah, is there anything you can give us some insight on that corporate culture internally in Valiant that you think distinguishes it in the industry?
Sure. Yeah. So I can't really speak to what life is like within the walls of DC over in Burbank, or Marvel over a little north of us in New York, or even Image or any other publisher, because the only publisher I've ever worked for is Valiant. But what I can say is that Valiant is a small company, and feedback and open and honest conversations between departments is encouraged. We're always talking about how we feel about our stories, our characters, and talking about where they're going and how we feel about that. So it's a very open and honest office. I think that helps a lot. I've had a ton of great conversations with editors, Fred Pierce, our publisher, within marketing, within sales. I mean, just to give you guys a better picture, I mean, marketing and sales are two departments. Every week now we're having video calls to talk about looking at the publishing plan and reading all of the outlines that editorial's developing and the new scripts, and saying, as a marketing department, here's what we think is really exciting, and here are the things we can do with it. As a sales team, here's why we think this is something that retailers will really love, and how we can better talk to retailers about this. And yeah, it's just important to recognize that Valiant, since it was born has always been different. It's always been different from the big two, and they operate differently because they're simply a bigger company, and they have bigger companies above them. And I'm not saying that's a good or bad thing, but they operate under those guidelines. And with Valiant, our parent company, DMG Entertainment, they've been really, really hands-off, which has been great because they know that at the end of the day, we're all passionate about comics and we all just want to put out great comics. And they respect that. And, I've had the opportunity to meet Dan a couple times, Dan Mintz, the chairman. I've had good conversations with him. I've asked him, who his favorite Valiant characters and why, just to try to pick his brain and be like, do you really like Valiant? Just to try to understand, like, is this an investment or is this also a passion thing? And those conversations went really well, and he gave me some great answers about the Eternal Warrior. So I'm happy to vouch for the guy. Yeah. I mean, I'm not spoiling anything there. I'm just saying he likes the Eternal Warrior and the Immortal Brothers. And he gave a really good reason as to why. But Valiant, since, back in the day with, Kevin Van Hook, Don Perlin, Bob Layden, Jim Shooter, they've just been operating differently and offering something that's, an alternative to Marvel and DC, a connected universe that isn't quite like what you get with the big two. And that's not a jab at the big two. I'm a huge supporter of them. I mean, this poster right behind me, Old Man Logan, it's a Marvel poster. You can't see off the screen, but there's a lot of Marvel and DC and IDW stuff and Dark Horse stuff as well. I'm a big supporter of the industry as a whole. I'll support good comics no matter what the names are attached to them. But at the end of the day, Valiant is a small company, and it has a incredibly passionate fan base. Whether they love or loathe what we're doing, I know it's always coming from a place of passion and caring so deeply about these characters that they fell in love with, either in the 90s or from 2012 to now. So I am always willing to listen because I know what that's like. I know what it's like to feel that way about characters. And if you feel like, something that's going on right now is amazing and the next must-read thing, or maybe it's, not the right direction for a character. I completely, in your opinion, I completely understand what those feelings are like, and I know it's always coming from a place of love. And it's just caring about the brand, and you got to respect that. And at the end of the day, without fans, where would we be? Who would read the books? So it's Valiant. I mean, it's also worth noting that, like, before Valiant came back in 2012, fans would still meet every year and do poker tournaments, and there was a panel in San Diego. So that just shows the level of passion and dedication that these fans feel for this brand, and it's something that's you just have to respect. And I just continue to hope that we put out comics that they, whether they like or dislike it, I just hope that they go in with an open mind, and from there, feel free to share your opinions. I'm open to hearing them.
So a couple of things you touched on, with like Kevin Van Hook and Bob Layton, Don Perlin, and just like the passion that Valiant fans have, coming into it, you're stepping into a pretty big legacy for, like you said, a smaller company. Does that connectivity, does that make your job easier, or do you feel like it makes it harder, or is it a little bit of both?
It never makes the job easier. Never. Because every day I tell myself that I'm a part of the history of the company right now. And every day I have the opportunity to do everything in my power to make sure that, this era of Valiant, that we're doing everything we can to be proud of the books we're putting out and proud of what we're doing with the characters. Because that's a huge responsibility. This is a company that doesn't have the same kind of history as Marvel or DC. It came about in the 90s. We're talking, 30 some odd years of history. So that is not something that I take lightly at all. And I just continue to do my best every day and work with everyone to make sure that we're excited about what we're doing, we're proud of it, and we're doing our best to get the word out there.
Yeah, that's so interesting to hear, because the books actually come across like that, as if they're aware of this era that they're in with Valiant.
Well, that's all the editors and creators. I can't take any credit for that.
It's interesting that it translates like that, because even the fans are kind of aware that, you know, this Valiant 2020 has been really big. There's a lot of stuff happening, kind of this new era with Valiant. And it's interesting that there's that correlation between, you know, what the company is doing and what the fans are feeling. And I think that there's this, I don't know, this type of symbiosis with this fandom and with the company, that as soon as Ken and I started the show, we had so much support from all the other podcasts that are Valiant focused. You know, they reached out to us to support us, and they send us posters and all this cool stuff. And then,
that's awesome.
And then Valiant is sending us, you know, you guys are sending us PDFs and review copies and setting up interviews. And it's just this overwhelming support system almost that I haven't really experienced in the industry before. And it's something that I think is unique to Valiant. And it's hard to describe that when you're showing someone a Ninjak book, you know, and it's like everything that comes with being a Valiant fan. And it's super cool. Is the company kind of aware of that relationship, and does that kind of guide the direction of marketing?
Yeah, that plays a significant role. So like I said, it's not something that I take lightly. You have to acknowledge that, you know, the origin of the company, how they were doing something different in the way they engaged with their fan base back then, and the management when the company came back in 2012. As I said, I was press. I had the opportunity to visit the office back then multiple times, conduct interviews with the management back then, creators, and we hope to keep that level of fan engagement and fan acknowledgement. Because it's not just about, you know, at the end of the day, I'm always happy to give you guys, you know, free stuff, PDFs, advanced looks at stuff, and, you know, hope you guys will continue to give your honest feedback on them. That's great. That's important. I definitely understand that as someone who used to be press, how exciting it is to get new PDFs every week from publishers. I love that, especially if you get physical copies in the mail. That's something that I loved and has definitely caused a bit of a storage capacity issue in my life. We have a one-bedroom apartment with a kid on the way, so we'll have to see how that works.
Congratulations again, by the way.
Thank you guys. It's very nice. But it's not just about, you know, giving you guys free stuff. It's also about listening. And obviously, at the end of the day, you can't listen to everything that fans are saying, because if you try to please everyone, at the end of the day, you're going to please no one. You're going to do something incredibly safe and incredibly boring, and you're not going to take any risks, and you're just going to repeat what has been done before, but maybe not even as well, and then it's just a watered down product. One thing that I keep saying about the next Harbinger run is that it is a very different direction and different energy for the book, because Joshua Dysart, who did an absolutely brilliant job with these characters and that property since 2012, from Harbinger #1 to The Life and Death of Toyo Harada #6, that's an incredible run. And when you bring Harbinger back after that, you don't just want to feel like it's Dysart light. You know, you want to do something new, something different, while respecting, you know, the legacy that he's created and how these characters operate. And I do feel like they've brought that with this upcoming book, and I look forward to you guys seeing more of that and giving your honest feedback. But it's about listening, because again, the Valiant fan base is incredible. And one thing that I always appreciate is they will certainly keep you honest. And I am always happy to listen. And I'm always happy to have very civil debates about books. I mean, because at the end of the day, this is a lot of it is, of course, subjective. But it's also important to always listen and bring that feedback with me into Valiant HQ, and just make people aware. And again, it's a small company, so everyone does keep an eye on that stuff while working on the things that they're passionate about. And something I hope we continue to really, an area where I hope we continue to excel, because it's so important. You know, it's such an incredible fan base, and you want to make sure you're not letting them down.
Yeah. Interesting.
Excellent. All right, a lot of good stuff there, man. A lot of good stuff.
You guys receive my checks in the mail as well, right? Because that helps. I'm sorry, dumb joke.
Yeah. So, of the books coming up, you did mention Ninjak, Harbinger, Shadow Man. Is there one in particular that you're particularly excited for, or is it just kind of like there's just so much crazy coming at once, like just general excitement, or?
Obviously, I shouldn't play favorites. With that in mind, I would say the book that I am the most excited about is one that hasn't been announced yet.
Okay.
Okay. It's I really I think the writer's very talented and underrated, and I think the outline that they crafted was a lot of fun and very appropriate for the property, and has the potential to work with some other stuff. That's all I could say. But yeah, no, Shadow. I can say that for all the stuff coming up, they're kind of embracing different genres, which is what Valiant does so well in the 2012 run. Exo Manowar, you had epic sci-fi world building and just exciting action. Harbinger was this character-driven psychological piece that felt so unlike any other drama that was going on between characters and books. It was going into territories that you feel like you may never see in other books, and it was really compelling stuff. Archer and Herbstrog was just a blast. It was so much fun. And then Bloodshot was just doing action exceptionally well. So I feel like that's an area. While I do love the shared universe and that feeling of having these characters connect and seeing them interact, and that's something I'm always passionate about, because I feel like we do this company, I should say, has done that so well, because it is a smaller publishing line. I'm not going to say easier to do that. It's never easy. The work that the creators and editors do, that's an incredible feat what they accomplish. It's an incredible amount of juggling, and the amount of care that goes into not only researching these characters and the universe, but also collaborations and how they can work together. It's truly impressive. But one area where the company continues to thrive is just a variety of genres. And with the upcoming books, I do feel like that's something that we're going to tap into once again. And if I talk about that with upcoming books that haven't officially been revealed yet, it's a bit of a spoiler about the tone of the book. But what I can say is that, Shadow Man, for example, since that has been revealed, Cullen Bunn is really just really having fun embracing the horror side of Shadow Man's world. And he's telling a bunch of standalone kind of like mini horror movies in each issue, but it's all, of course, building up to something.
Wow.
I like that.
And kind of speaking on the tone, I feel like this is a question I might be able to ask you from a marketing standpoint.
Sure.
Because when these books were being marketed, we had Dr. Tomorrow and The Final Witness.
Mm-hmm.
Ken and I had talked a little bit about how we recognized the genre direction of Valiant. And these were giving us kind of like a golden age comics feel of offsetting noir detectives and, this hopeful superhero, like classic superhero story, which feels like a familiar dichotomy in the comics industry with what you get from Batman and Superman.
Mm-hmm.
This correlation kind of, I felt, was like a core of what we were coming to see in Valiant 2020, in that it's, what we recognize with comics and the themes and genres that we relate to them. And then you've got these two almost parallel stories. Is there anything to that? I just have to ask, because it's something that's been on my mind, and it's something Ken and I have talked about a lot, and we keep getting excited about it every time we talk about it.
So that's a great question and a great observation. What I can say is, when the team looks at the publishing plan and talks about the future of the company and the characters and the stories, it's of course important to make sure that something doesn't feel like it's redundant, like that is already being catered to in a different book. So obviously Final Witness and Dr. Tomorrow are both offering something very different from the rest of the lineup. And that kind of ties into a little bit of what you touched upon earlier with Valiant High, how that caters to a different genre and even a different audience. It has the potential to introduce a whole new fan base to the Valiant universe and hopefully inspire them to check out other stuff. And with Dr. Tomorrow, there's certainly the potential for that. I feel like Dr. Tomorrow is a good example of a book you wouldn't expect from Valiant, while still very much being a Valiant book, because it's written by a former Valiant editor who knows the universe exceptionally well. So when it comes to doing something new and something you may not expect from Valiant, I don't think anyone expected a caped hero or a bunch of different dimensions, and with them being blown up, that doesn't sound like a Valiant book at the end of the day, or at least the Valiant book that people would come to expect. But because it's handled so carefully, and this was a book that Robert Myers was editing. He's over at Ani now, on the other side of the country, and obviously I hope that's going incredibly well. He's a great guy. We would talk almost every day. We shared a wall, so I do miss it. But no, it's a great opportunity he has, and he has family out on the West Coast, so it was a good move for him. But yeah, you could do different stuff in the Valiant universe as long as you still understand, what a Valiant book is, and how does this not only feel like it's staying true to what Valiant is, but also helping bring it in new directions organically and potentially bring in new readers while still staying true and appealing to the core fans.
Yeah, you had mentioned an awareness, and I feel like that immediately gets back to Valiant understanding and having this awareness of their place in the industry, and also kind of what can be this catalyst to becoming so much more. The Bloodshot movie happened, and there's this expansion of brand familiarity with the name, and I feel like Valiant pursuing this genre direction kind of shows an awareness that they're on the verge of something great, and that it feels like something big is happening. And you had mentioned earlier when we had first started that you were already planning into 2022. How do you carry that momentum, especially through something like this, and keep it going for so long like that?
All I will say is very carefully. You have to carry it very carefully. When it comes to the publishing plan in 2021 and 2022, that is obviously, something that our directors and editors are very heavily involved with, and they have, weekly, if not daily, discussions about it. I'm merely here to help provide my feedback and my thoughts on it. But it is something that there are a lot of conversations going on about the best foot forward, because at the end of the day, there are so many good pitches and outlines that they have. It's about finding the right path forward when there are so many different options. And that's an ongoing discussion, and it's a very good discussion, one that I've been privileged to be a part of at times. And it's one that has me feeling legitimately excited for the potential in 2021 and 2022. That's really all I can say without getting into potentially spoiling anything. But there's a lot of exciting stuff being discussed. And I am personally excited to be working on announcement strategies and ways we can promote them.
Excellent stuff, man. Excellent stuff. One thing that we did talk about, and I don't know if you'll be able to say too much on this, but I'm gonna go ahead and shoot it to you anyway.
Bring it on.
With the Bloodshot movie and just the way that that everything Valiant's been doing, bringing back classic characters like EXO and Ninjak and so on and so forth. It's not only is it a great time just because of the movie, but also it makes you wonder, because you guys really don't do anything without multiple reasons. So is there maybe something that we should be looking forward to that would require all of these pieces to be back on the board? Like, something like maybe the Valiant or Book of Death or something like that might be in the works?
How do I answer this? because I don't want to give you a non-answer, but I feel like that's the only kind of answer I could give. You know, I don't want to be. I don't want to be
that's fair. That's fair.
That just rambles on while saying nothing at the same time. What I can say is kind of repeating what I said before, where the future direction is being handled very carefully. And it's important to make sure that if we do anything like that, it's carefully thought out, it feels earned, it's exciting, it's new, and it feels warranted, and something that has you guys legitimately excited. So if we do something like that, that means all of those big questions have been asked and, you know, debated within the company. That's oh man,
that's good. That's good enough for me. That's good enough for me.
But also, it's important to remember that, you know, Valiant as a brand continues to grow, and while the timing of Bloodshot's release obviously was, you know, not a great time to open, still managed to be the #1 movie worldwide, which is surreal to say. Who would have ever thought Bloodshot would technically be the #1 movie worldwide, and it was #1 video on demand for a little bit, which is so cool to see, because I remember covering all this stuff as press about, you know, Valiant doing movies, and it's just it's surreal that has happened, and it is just ridiculously cool to be part of the company during this time. And as you guys know, of course, Harbinger is in development over at Paramount, and a lot of rumors have been circulating as well. And we have announced a partnership with Blowfish Studios to develop video games. I cannot say anything else. It's far above my pay grade. But there is stuff that I know and stuff that I'm excited about. I can say that. And then, of course, there's also the Shadow Man remastered video game coming out. So not only is the universe growing and being carefully constructed, but there's also a lot of exciting opportunities with Valiant outside of the comics, whether it is action figure deals that our licensing department may be working on, or future movies, or other stuff. Again, that's all way above my pay grade, but I'm feeling very excited about, and legitimately humbled about being part of the company right now.
Nice.
Is that a good non-answer?
I think so. I think that
I very much enjoyed that answer.
Yeah. And aside from, you know, everything coming in the future, we know next year's probably going to be really big. You know, I think May 20th is the date that Diamond has said comics are distributing again. What can fans be excited about right now for Valiant?
Sure. So I'd have to double check the date, but what I can say is Livewire Volume 3, the trade paperback, that's going to be our one release in the remainder of this month in May. I believe it's the 27th. I'll have to double check on that. But as for future releases, what I can say is that the sales team and the directors in the company have been talking to various people throughout the industry, basically daily, getting feedback from, you know, our partners at retail, our distributing partners, creators, and even fans. There's been a lot of planning going into how Valiant should return in the best way to do so. And that is something that I cannot speak to yet, but it is something that the team has been working on very, very carefully. And there should be more information about that revealed soon.
Very nice. Cool. Livewire, looking forward to that for sure.
Amen. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I love that run. Vita Ayala did a great job on that book.
Yeah, they are an incredible human being. I had the opportunity to meet Vita a few times back when I was with Midtown Comics. They're really good friends with Matthew Rosenberg, so that's how I initially met them during one of Matt's signings. And then I went to ALA with them in DC, and they are just they're a great human being, and it's always fun getting to talk with them and seeing their work.
And they're a great social media follow too. Like one of my favorite accounts.
For sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Always a good time talking to Vita. All right. Okay. So one thing. Let's see. I don't know if I don't want to put you on the ropes again, but
that's okay.
I did see a video interview that you're promoting with Colin Bunn. and he dropped a little hint about possibly doing something like Shadow Man and XO Manowar. How's that talk been going? If there's anything that you can share with us about that, or is that still like in the pre-planning stages in the ether?
How do I answer this? So what I can say is, as we spoke before, Valiant's a publisher that, you know, tries to offer a diversity of genre, but we are also a shared universe. So we are always looking at possible ways that our heroes can interact and ways to bring them together. That's certainly a possibility one day. We'll just have to wait and see. I think no matter what happens with Shadow Man, I have nothing but faith in Cullen. I think he's really working in his element with Shadow Man. And no matter how that book plays out, I can tease that he's also working on something else with Valiant. I'm sure you guys can give an educated guess or two, but I will not say anything else. But if you are a Cullen Bunn fan, then just be happy knowing that Shadow Man is an ongoing series, and he's actively working on something else within Valiant.
Shadow Man Punk Mambo. Shadow Man Punk Mambo. I'm calling it now. It's gonna happen. All right.
But for the future of Jack, we'll just have to wait and see how that plays out. But XO right now, as you guys know, he returned with Dennis and Emilio, and whether or not he starts to interact with heroes, I guess we will all just have to wait and see.
And I kind of want to follow up. I'm so happy that Shadow Man is an ongoing series. Something I see pretty often in the fandom and, you know, on the comments, is that Valiant has favored a pretty short run for a lot of their series lately. You know, 6 issues, 12-issue runs. Can we expect anything in the future for an extended run where maybe we could see issue 40, issue 50 of something like Shadow Man?
Sure. That's a really good question. I think that for 2018 and 2019, there were a number of limited series, and that was a new direction that you know, we were trying to do as a company, to kind of trying out new IP books that you may not usually see, because, as you know, during that time also there was a lot of demand for characters, core characters to come back, and understandably so. But in the meantime, we were trying to service those directions in new ways. Like, instead of Shadow Man immediately coming back after the Incredible Diggle run, we had Punk Mambo with Cullen and Adam and Jose. So we kind of dipped into the supernatural side with that. Instead of immediately bringing Ninjak back after Ninja K, we had Killers, which further expanded the. Obviously, Ninjak is part of the universe, but he has his very own specific world. You know, there's this whole mythos there that you could explore, and they had some fun over there. And then, of course, with Eternal Warrior, we had Incursion. And then with the Immortal Brothers, we had the Immortal Sister with the Forgotten Queen. so that was, and then of course we had Roku as well to continue with the Ninjak corner of the Valiant universe. So I think it's going to be a case-by-case basis, really. I think there are certain characters who warrant longer runs, and that's not to say certain characters are less deserving, but I would say no matter how much I love Fitzy, and no matter how brilliant the creative team's direction for the character may be, I would never expect a Fitzy ongoing series. You know, I love Kraven the Hunter and Marvel, but I would never expect a Kraven the Hunter ongoing series. But now that the core characters are back, they're going beyond what a traditional limited series would be. You know, like Rai isn't just 4 issues, Bloodshot isn't 4 or 6 issues. So we'll have to wait and see. At the end of the day, though, it's also important to recognize that data is ultimately going to determine which books can continue, because no matter how passionately we feel about something and how much we stand by something, you just have to look at the sales and whether or not right now it's working. And then if it is terrific, we have to take a look and see why, and see how we can get that kind of success elsewhere. If it's not, we still have to learn from it. We still have to look at that and say, why didn't this resonate right now? What can we do differently? So I do firmly believe it's going to be a case-by-case basis. But if the sales justify it, I could definitely see some ongoings. And I certainly hope that you'll see a few more in 2021 without spoiling anything. That's all I can say.
Well, you definitely heard it here. Go buy the books if you want to see ongoings, fans. Like, that's how you get issues 40, 50. Keep supporting them.
Yeah, I think one thing that's important is, look, if you don't like a book, that's totally okay. But if you do feel strongly about a book, if you do like it, it's important to reach out to your local comic shop. Let them know that you want to add it to your pull list, because when they get that kind of feedback from their their customers, that helps them determine how many issues of this series they want to order moving down the coming months. And so I would definitely recommend that if you're feeling passionate about a book, to contact your LCS and let them know. And then, of course, hear if there are safe ways and for you to continue getting comics in ways that you feel comfortable getting those comics. Because right now, above everything else, everyone needs to do what they need to do to feel safe and, not only protect themselves, but others.
Yeah, absolutely. And
excellent.
If I cannot pick your brain too much, there's something that happened in this pandemic, I think, with digital comics. Mm-hmm. There was an accessibility factor there. And I think Valiant latched onto it really well on social media with the free PDFs and that whole initiative. I love digital comics. I was introduced to the medium through digital comics. And I really wanted to see, has Valiant given that any thought into pursuing a more digital comics initiative or a focused initiative? Is that something that's in the works at all, or is it still pretty much a publishing format for comics?
Sure. I can't speak to that too much just because that's something that really is something that other departments focus on. But what I can say is that accessibility is so important. Simply reading a comic, I think, is still a very alien concept to a lot of people. There was a stigma against comics for so long, but now comics or comic book characters are such a huge part of pop culture. How many people went to see the latest Avengers movie or watch, one of the DC shows on the CW? There's a huge potential audience for comic books, and finding new ways to get them to read a comic is incredibly important. That said, while digital does potentially offer more accessibility, because as we all know, we are all walking around glued to our phones or iPads at all times. So if you can find a way to get a free digital comic in front of someone, that's great. But at the end of the day, I will say that retailers really are the backbone of this industry, and anything we do, we have to keep them in mind. That's essential. And also, there really is no substitute for flipping through a comic and reading it that way. Digital is accessible. It's a great way to build a vast library of comics. I could open up my Comixology account right now, and I have an excessive amount of comics in there. But at the end of the day, there really isn't a substitute for physical, and we everything we do, we have to make sure we're keeping all of our partners in mind. So all of those decisions have to be made very carefully. But I can say that we do firmly stand behind, physical copies and making sure everything we're doing is supporting retailers.
Yeah, it's so important. I think anytime you get into that discussion, that's kind of the thing that comes to the forefront is, how do you keep retailers in the loop and prominent in purchasing behaviors? And I think Valiant's done really well with that. My shop's a huge Valiant fan, and whenever somebody puts something on their list, it's special to them. And I think that's part of the relationship too.
Yeah, our sales team is incredible. Almost all of them are former comic shop employees. And the one guy who isn't, he's a brilliant young guy who I talk to almost daily because we just enjoy talking. But no, he's great at analyzing the market and the industry as a whole. So it's a great sales team.
Yeah, interesting.
Well,
Ken, if you have, I could sit here all day and pick your brain. Such big Valiant fans, and honestly, just thanks for coming and talking to us.
Of course, dude. Thank you guys for doing this all the time. Yeah, I mean, you're taking time out of your day to talk about Valiant, and that means the world to us. So thank you very much. Thank you for continuing to not only talk about Valiant, but also write about it. And I always looking forward to reading and listening to your honest feedback, whether you love something or whether you have some constructive criticism. I always love hearing it. And yeah, thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you for being with us. All right. So on that note, we're going to wrap it up, guys. Thank you, Gregg, for being with us today. It's been truly an honor. It's been very informative.
Thank you.
Just good time. We'd love to have you on another time. So keep a small slot in your calendar open for us if you don't mind.
I would be happy to come back once you guys learn more about Ninjak and Harbinger and everything beyond that.
All right, we'll hold you to that. All right. In the meantime, thanks for watching, guys. Don't forget to like, subscribe, follow us on Twitter, all that good stuff. #StayValiant, and we'll catch you next time.